So in our application, we are able to log in, we are able to RSVP an event. And in this video, we're going to continue with managing the events that a user has already RSVP'd. For example, I log in as myself and then I RSVP this event and maybe this one as well. But I want to be able to see what are the events that I have already RSVP'd. And maybe I can take some actions. For example, I may want to cancel an event, or I may want to give a review for an event, for the past event, right? So to support that functionality, we need to be able to navigate to that page. And then I think the best place to be able to navigate to that manage RSVP events page is to click on this name, right? So you log in and you click on your own name, then you go to that page. So let's actually go ahead and try to work on that in this video. Let's open up Solution Explorer. And what I want to do is I do want to create a feature folder. And I'm going to go ahead and create a folder, and I'm going to call it Manage User RSVP Events. And we're going to create a reader component following the pattern that the folder name is the same as the component name. So manage user RSVP component, RSVP events component. All right. So let's delete this one first. And I want to have a page directive. And I don't like this automatically generated URL. I'm going to say users / and then user ID. This is a root parameter that is passed in through the root. And then I'm going to say manage RSVP events, something like that. So with this pattern, you can do users. In the future, you can have users / users ID / I don't know, profile or something, right? So what do I want to do here? Actually, I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to roll back. So I do want to keep that title here because I want to do a quick testing. I mean, this, and one of the important thing of this page is that once the user wants to navigate to this page, then this page has to be protected. Right. First of all, only login user can access this page. So it's not that if you didn't log in and you try to follow this pattern of the URL and you try to access a page, then you should be denied. You have to log in to do that. And in order to do that in the ASP.NET Core, what we want to use is the attribute authorize, like the authorize attribute. And I'm going to do a control dot to import this namespace. Now with this protection of this namespace, it's going to redirect me to, I think, to Google, because for in program.cs, what we have set up over here is we have set up authentication and we added Google, right? And we also, most important thing here is that the default challenge scheme is Google authentication scheme. Therefore, you are going to be redirected to the Google account page, and then you will be asked to log in if you haven't logged into Google in your computer. So let's try that. Let's run the application and see what the result is, and then we have to make this work first. All right, so I've already logged in. I don't know whether the thing is already running. Okay, so it's already running. So I've already logged in, and if I follow the pattern, I say users /1 / manage RSVP events, and I should be, so I was assuming that I should be able to see that page, but it's still redirecting me to this choose an account page. So I think what is actually missing here is because we're using the authorize attribute and we didn't add the authorization middleware. So let's add the authorization middleware. And then let's run this thing again to see what happens now. So let's close this Google account thing and notice that I'm still logged in, right? It's a persistent cookie. So I'm still logged in. Now I'm following this pattern to go to /user /1 / manage RSVP events, and I'm going to hit enter and I'm expecting to see this page. Oh, okay. So You see, it's trying to take me to the page, but I didn't define the root parameter in this component. So that's not a big problem. We're going to add the parameter right now, and it has to be a public property. I'm going to call it user ID that corresponds to the user ID. And let's run this again. Okay, now you can see that I'm visiting this page without being warned or being kicked out to the login page. Right, so now I'm logging out, right? So because I logged out, now if I try to access the same thing, then it takes me to the Google account page. Now, once I'm on the Google account page, I'm going to click on one of the users because all of them have logged in. So I don't have to type in my username and password, right? So I'm going to click one of them, and I'm hoping that it's going to take me back to the application. As you can see, this works very, very well. It takes me back to this page. Now, the only thing that I'm not so sure is that whether it has gone through this endpoints or not. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Remember, we have a endpoints in the shared folder. We have this authentication endpoints, and we want to take the user to this endpoint, and we can set a breakpoint over here and see how this goes. And by the way, now I'm looking at this, I think this could be not necessary, but I mean, this line doesn't need to be here because the claims are already created. But let's try to see what's going on here. I mean, that's another topic. Let's first of all try to see what is actually happening behind the scene, why it just suddenly works. So I'm going to log out again, and I'm going to go to this /user/1/manage RSVP events, and then it takes me to Google. I click on one of the user, and now it takes me back. You can see that this breakpoint is not triggered, meaning that the sign in callback is not triggered. Well, you may ask that if it's not triggered, why is it working, first of all? Secondly, if it's working, why do we have to force the user to go to this sign in callback event? Well, let's answer the question one by one. First of all, why it's working, right? Why the user is not here, but it's still working? Well, the default OAuth workflow with the NuGet package. Remember, we installed the Microsoft.ASP.NET Core .authentication.google. So that NuGet package already implements a typical OAuth workflow, which includes a signing in process, which is this signing process, which actually means that if it's not for creating users, then this whole endpoint is not useful, right? We want to force the user to come over here because we want to create users. And that's, at least so far, that's the most important reason. And secondly, over here that I mentioned, this line is not so useful because I realized in the default OAuth flow, which is implemented by that NuGet package, it's already signed in. So this is not really necessary, this line. We can just totally utilize the sign-in principle here, right? So let's delete this line, and we know that the claims principle is already in the context, so we don't have to check the result to see whether it's successful or not, right? We can basically just check. Actually, let's remove this and rewrite it. So you can see if I go to user, this is a claims principle. Right? So, which means that if this is not now, or I mean, if this is now, or if the context.user.identity is now, or if the context.user.identity.is authenticated is false. So if it's false, I'm going to add this exclamation mark. Then we will redirect the user to an error page, which is a to-do thing. Here, result.principal.claims, I don't have to do that. I can use context.user.claims. You can see that the user object is the principal object. So I don't have to use the result. Okay, so I have the email and name, and then I can use it to create the user. And then at the end, I don't have to sign in, right? Because the purpose of signing in is just to create the claims and create the cookie. But it's already created by the OAuth flow implemented by the NuGet package. So this thing is just, it's not useful, at least so far, right? In this logic, it's not very useful. All right, we modified the code and we want to run it again to make sure that everything still works. Okay, let's log out and we need to log in again. So this login button triggers the endpoint. And if we want to test it, we have to go through this workflow. Let's go over here, select this one, and then you can see that it's still working, which means that the OAuth workflow, actually the NuGet package creates the cookie, right? The sign in is basically called within it. Secondly, we want to tackle this workflow. So this page, not this page, this page is being protected by the authorized attribute here. And this automatically takes the user to the Google account because that's how we configure in program.cs. Right? We configure the authentication to say that the challenge scheme is Google authentication. Then when it comes back, the problem is that it doesn't go through our endpoint. And if it doesn't go through our endpoint, the most important problem, the most prominent problem is that the user is not being created, right? And if it's already exists and not being updated. So that's a serious problem, and we need to resolve that problem. And the way to resolve that problem is to go to program.cs and go under at Google here. You can configure this, right? You can tap into the OAuth flow by saying options.events, right? And then you can create a new OAuth event and already automatically generate this code. And I'm gonna do a control dot to import the namespace. You see, it's even allow you to add custom claims here. But what we want to override is not on creating ticket, is on ticket received, right? And we're going to do async context, and we want to do something over here. So when we receive the ticket and hover the mouse over here, you can see this is a ticket received context. It's not a HTTP context. And under it, it has a principal object. So if.context.principal, right? If it's not now, which means that we already have a principal here, then what I want to do is to directly sign in from here, right? At this point, the OAuth flow hasn't finished, and the sign in process, which happens as almost the last point, hasn't happened, which means the the cookie isn't created yet. So what we want to do is to force the creation of the cookie, right? So I'm going to sign in using the principal, and let's see whether it generates it. No, it doesn't generate. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say await context.http context. See, you can access HTTP context from here, and then you can sign in. And then we're using cookie authentication, and we're using this principle from this ticket received context. So this forces the creation of the cookie. Now, the reason why we want to sign in from here is that once this is done, then we can force the user to the endpoint that we were talking about. That will help us to create the user if the user hasn't been in our system yet. That's very important. Now, how do we do that? We're going to say context.response.redirect. So we're going to force the user, we're going to redirect the user to the URL. And the URL is basically sign in callback, right? Which is the one that we implemented in here, sign in callback. And you can see here, it automatically generated this. It says suppress the default behavior. If I don't do that, then the rest of the OAuth flow happens, and at the end, it's going to try to sign in again. And I don't need that, right? I don't need to do that. I want the flow be taken over by this sign. It should be sign in, right? So it has to be in. This could even be a typo here, but whether it's typo or not, we want to make sure that it's the same. So here, probably add a slash. Now, once the ticket is created, we create a cookie, right? We sign in and create a cookie, and then we force the user to this endpoint. Now, when the endpoint starts here, the user, which is the principal, is already created. It's created by which one? It's created by this line. And then the rest of the process is the same as before. And the user is created or updated. So that's important, right? So let's see. Okay, so let's log out. And let's go to slash users/1/manage RSVP event. And then I'm taken over to Google. This is the default behavior. And now when I do this, it comes back to the home page. Why it comes back to the home page? Because this sign in callback is running, because at the end it takes me to home page anyways. Now if I go to /users/manage RSVP events, I'm able to be here because I've already signed in. All right, so let's continue with implementing this page. So here, what we want to show is a list of RSVP events, right? The events that are already RSVP'd. So what is the layout? This is going to be similar to Amazon. You know, when you purchase something, you can see a list of your own orders. In order to do this faster, nowadays we want to use AI. We don't have to code everything ourselves. So I'm going to just say that I'm going to say using Bootstrap, generate HTML elements that mimics the Amazon user orders page that shows a list of orders that the user already ordered. This is not proper English, but I'm pretty sure AI understands, which means for each order, the image of the product is displayed on the left and action buttons are on the right. Also, there are some descriptions. There are product title, product name, and descriptions to the right of the product. So let's see what it generates. Okay, it generates HTML, and so I'm gonna say regenerate, and this time don't use any class other than strap classes, because it has this order list thing and expecting me to create those classes. You know, I'm lazy. That's why I use AI. Otherwise I'm gonna write everything myself. So let's see what it generates. Okay, let's copy this, and I created a test HTML. I'm gonna paste it here and save it. And now let's go to test HTML, and we can see this right here, and it looks pretty good, right? It looks pretty good. So let's copy this and go back to Visual Studio and go over here. So we don't need this title here. Paste it here. And I'm gonna say this is upcoming event, and I need to have a list of this, right? So for that purpose, I'm gonna create a service here. So go ahead. Actually, first of all, let's copy this name, and then let's go ahead and create a service class. Click on add. So here in the service, we need to get a list of events, right? Based on the user, and it's trying to generate the whole code for me. And let's see what it does. I don't need the cancel event, so I'm gonna delete this, and I need to import namespaces, and this one as well. And let's use AI first. Get user RSVP events. This is exactly what I need, and I don't need this. This is not a thing. So we're gonna change this to event view model, okay, and import namespace. So let's double check the code that is generated. It doesn't have to be, we'll get a list of RSVPs map. No, it doesn't have to be like that because the RSVP is a link to the events, right? So we don't have to do this. Let's remove this, and maybe we can ask it to regenerate. But first of all, let's also dependency inject in the mapper. Control dot, initialize the field, and then over here, we're gonna say context dot event dot, make it include, yeah, we include RSVP first, and then let's make the dot show up here. And then I'm gonna say where events dot RSVP dot any email equals email. Remember, on this page, on this manage user page, we already have the user ID, right? So instead of using email, let's use user ID. So integer user ID, and here let's change events to just e. So r dot user ID equals user ID. Now once I have this, I can do toList using async is fine, and then we can use await here. This will give us a list of events, right? So we can say var events. Now this is exactly what we want. We want to get the events, but we need to use the mapper to map that, and we can then return the events view model. All right, so we have this, and let's go to program.cs, and then dependency inject here. It automatically generates it. All we have to do is import namespace. Let's go over here. So this one, we're done. We go back to the component over here and we try to use it. So first of all, we are going to have the event declared right here. We're going to have a private list of event view model. Event view model, event, private list, private. It's better. And this event includes all of the events, but I do want to separate from, you know, upcoming events and past events. So I'm gonna have past event. So this is filtered events. I'm gonna call it upcoming. Is it correct? Upcoming events, and then past events already generated for me. Now on parameter set, so I'm gonna say override on parameter set async. Okay, it does. I don't need this. Oh, it's already generated this for me. But the events, it didn't. So I'm gonna say events equals await and the service. Did we inject? We haven't. So I'm gonna inject the manage user service. Let's go down over here and say manage user service, get user RSVP events by user, by user ID, and we have this events over here. Then we need to get upcoming events and this. Okay, so this is not right. This is not right. So I'm gonna say e goes to not this. E goes to, so e begin date is greater than date only dot format. From date time, and we are going to provide now into it. I'm gonna have now equals date time now. Okay, so begin date has to be greater than like today, or if e dot begin date is the same, basically same as today. I'm gonna copy this, paste it over here. If it's the same as today, then and e dot begin time is greater than time only, okay, from date time now, then this is the event I want, right? Because this is the upcoming events. toList, so probably missing a bracket here. Okay, much better. So let's copy this and paste it over here. So the opposite would be the past events. So let's turn it around. So if begin date is smaller, then it's past events, or if it's the same date, then the begin time has to be smaller and equal to now. Then this means it's past events. Should we say begin time or should we say end time? Let's use begin time, because once the event already begins, you cannot cancel the event anymore, right? Because you see, in the first list, we have upcoming. And then in the next list, we have past events. For upcoming events, you can cancel. But for past events, you cannot cancel anymore. You can only, let's say you can only do review, right? So therefore, once the event starts, we can consider that you can't cancel that anymore. It doesn't make sense to cancel. So let's use this logic. And there's two lists. That's good. Let's go up over here. And let's say if upcoming event is not now, and at the same time upcoming events dot count is greater than 0, then we're gonna render this and copy this. And actually, before we paste it in, we can say no RSVP for upcoming events. And we do have, then we're gonna do a for each loop. Okay, EV in upcoming event, and we're gonna paste it here. Okay, remember we have a image thing that we used in Discover. I think the Discover slice. Let's see where the Discover slice is. It's right here. Let's go over here, and we do have this image thing. Let's copy it over and paste it here. So we have this image, and product image is basically, let's go over here, and so the source of this is basically just the event image, and we do need to take the user to the event. So I'm gonna say href /event.event ID and cut this to paste it underneath. Okay, so here I do want to limit the size of the image, but let's see how this class turns out. Okay, now product details here. This is not a product, this is the event, but we can consider it as a product. So name here, I'm gonna say @ev.title, and description, we're not gonna have description. We're gonna have just the time, I guess, which is also in the Discover thing here. So this one, I'm gonna copy and close it and paste it here. I don't know whether this class still valid. Let's leave it as this and see what happens. So action buttons, I'm gonna delete this, and for the primary button, I'm gonna say cancel RSVP. So I don't want to use primary button. Probably want to use button danger. Is there such a thing? This is in for each loop, and let's see how it looks like. All right, so we have this upcoming event for all of the events that I've generated, and this image is pretty big. We need to change it to limit its size. Style, we change to the next line. Style equals width, limit to only 120 pixels, and height would be automatic. And object fit is going to be cover. So this controls the fitting, the image fitting behavior. And perhaps I want to have a rounded corner. Let's see how it looks now. Okay, much better now. Okay, I like this layout much better. And let's go ahead with the next group, which is the past events. All we need to do is to just duplicate this. Let's copy this entire thing, paste, maybe add a line break and paste it here. And now this is going to be changed to past events, and all of the upcoming events are going to be changed to past events. So I'm going to just change it here, past events, and copy this, paste it here and here, and everything else will stay the same except here. I'm going to have a leave a review, something like that. And here, no RSVP for past events. Let's just say no past events. Okay, there's no past events, so it's not showing. It's not showing. But if we do want to change, do want to see past events, we can change some of them. Oh, I guess we don't have to, because everything will be exactly the same as before. Everything will be exactly the same as upcoming events, except for the button here, change to leave a review. Now, another thing I want to make sure is that I'm logged in as user 1, right? But right now, if I go to, let's say, user 3, which I believe in my database, I do have user 3, and if I hit enter, then I'm able to visit user 3's past events. I'm able to take actions. So that is absolutely no. So we have to prevent users from doing this. And for that, we can add authorization policies, because if we go up over here, we have authorized attribute here, and in it, we can specify a policy, right? And let's say we're gonna call the policy validate user ID. I don't want to call it this way. Let's call it same user policy, which means that the only user 1 can access user 1, user 1's profile, or user 1's events page. User 2 cannot. Any other users cannot. So we need to define this same user policy. And to do that, we are going to go to program.cs. For now, let's use that. And let's go to here. We have add authentication. And after that, I'm going to say builder.services.add authorization. So we're going to configure authorization now. So I'm going to say options goes to, and then we add policy. So it's trying to generate some code for me, but I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to have a same user policy. So I'm going to try to see whether AI can do this work for me. So validate the user ID to make sure the user ID is the same user ID claim. So I know that in the claim, we don't have a user ID yet, but we will be able to do that, right? Once, we'll be able to do that. So in the authentication endpoint, we can do something there. But for now, because I know I can store the user ID in the claim, that's why I'm writing this comment here. So I'm gonna enter this and see what it does. So require authenticated user, require assertion, user ID resource. Okay, so I'm gonna do it myself. So the policy is the policy that we wrote here in the razor here. I'm gonna copy this over, and I'm going to paste it here. Okay. Now the policy is that it requires assertion. So I'm gonna say policy dot require assertion, and then the context goes to. Now this context is authorization handler context, but it does have, you see, if I go to context.user, it does have the claims principal as well, which is the user, right? So I'm going to say var user equals claims.user. And then I'm going to say var user ID claim equals user.find claims type name identifier. Yeah. There isn't a ID other than name identifier. So we're going to use name identifier to store the user ID here. So here I'm going to say if int try parse. I'm going to try parse the user claim. So yeah, so it generated code looks correct, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this value. Okay, I'm going to get the actual value here. Now, if I say integer try parse, hopefully it generated a different code for me. Okay, it doesn't. So I'm going to type it myself. So I'm going to I'll try to parse the user ID claim. This is a string. And then the result will be inside the authenticated user ID. Okay, inside the variable here. Now the context, so context dot resource. So this one is an object. but it actually can be converted into HTTP context. So I'm going to say var root data equals to as Microsoft.ASP.NET context. And if root data is not null, then I need to get root user ID here, right? And generate this for me. So root values user ID to string. So why we're using this? So we are checking the root template, and within that we have the user ID parameter there, right? And we're trying to grab that parameter value into this, and this is a string, and we are again trying to parse that into user ID, right? And if the authenticated user ID equals to user ID, so where's the authenticated user ID? The authenticated user ID is from the claim. So basically, if the claim that's stored in the cookie is the same as the user ID in the root, right, in the URL, then we're going to return true. Otherwise, at the very end, so after the if statement, I'm going to return false. And I think we're missing a semicolon here. So is there any issue? Why is showing? Oh, we're missing a bracket here. Okay. So same user policy is defined right here. We're comparing the claim in the user ID in the claim with the user ID in the root template. So now, do we actually have a user ID in the claim? We don't, because we go to the authentication endpoints here. You can see we have email claim, we have name claim. We don't even know about the user ID until the user ID is added to the table, right? Or if this existing user already exists, then it's inside this. The user ID is inside this object. So it has to be added to the principal. Unfortunately, once the principal is created, you cannot modify it. So which means that we have to modify this once again in order to add the claim. So let's modify this. So here, so in this statement, if email claim is not null and name claim is not null, this is the part we know that we have the information for the user, which is passed from Google account, right? And then once we are here, like at this point, we have the user information in this object, right? Because if it's null, then it's created here. If it's not null, then it's already there, right? And at this point, if we can access the user ID from the existing user object, that user ID should be there. So as I mentioned, we have to recreate all of the claims because we cannot modify, we cannot add additional ones. So I'm going to say var claims, and then we'll have a list of new claim, right? And just generate me all of these. And it did. And I don't think I need the row, at least for now, I don't need the row. And existing user dot email, that's fine. It's just possibly null. That's why it's generating that. So we have all of the claims. Now we need to create all of the identities. So claims identity, and then put the claim in it. And then now we need to create a principal. Give me the principal, and it does. Okay. So a principal contains one or many identities, and one identity contains one or many claims, or a zero or many claims. Okay. So once we have this principal, we need to sign in again, right? Sign in the user again in order to recreate the cookie, the cookie, the authentication cookie, right? So generate the code for me, and it does. It's very clever. Okay. So now in this new cookie that's stored in the browser, it knows about the user's information. It knows about, most importantly, it knows about the ID. And then the policy will be able to compare that ID with the ID in the root template and determine whether the user has access to a certain page. Okay, let's run this application now. Well, you already see that. It says that this redirected me to /account/accessed. So this is the default address when the authorization attribute fails, which means that access is denied. because we used to be on /users/3. So let's try it again, and you will know what I mean here. So I can still go to my own user, which is user 1. Oh, user 1 I cannot go to? Oh, that's because the cookie doesn't have that. So we need to try the login process again, because the cookie that was already in the browser, it doesn't contain the user ID, right? So let's log in again with this. Select a proper account here. This corresponds to the first user, and I'm able to access this page. But if I try to access number 3, then you see I don't have access to it. So access denied. So we can create a access denied page to make this thing look much nicer. Let's quickly create page. So I think it's not a business logic here. It's just a static. I'm going to put it in the shared folder here. And in order to quickly create it, I'm going to again go to copilot.microsoft.com, and then I'm going to let it generate. So generate me a Razor component, which is a Blazor, that works as a access denied page. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this and come back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a Razor component. And this is going to be called denied component. And I'm going to paste this whole thing here. The URL has to correspond to this one, /account/access denied. And then it says you do not have permission to view this page. Please contact your administrator if you believe so. Then takes you back to home. This is exactly what I need. Perhaps if you want to make it look much better, maybe you can add an image here. I don't have an image, but we can generate the image. So have some margin here. Let's make sure the maximum width is, let's say 400. Should we put it right here? Now let's try to use Copilot to generate an image. So generate me an image for the access denied page. Don't display buttons or links. It doesn't listen to me. I'm gonna use another one. I have this account here. This is a paid account. Okay, I'm using it for content creation purpose, and it'd be much better. Okay, so access denied, and this is much better. Okay, and I'm gonna download this. Now I'm gonna paste that image inside our www root folder and paste it inside the images folder. Okay, so which is this one, access denied image. And I'm gonna do /images/ okay. So now we have this page. Now let's run it again. So if I'm going to user 1, I should be able to access. Let's go to user 3. Now it shows this image. Right, access denied, you don't have a permission to view. Please contact your administrator and then return home. I click on this, I'm returning home. That's a very good behavior. Now another thing I want to do is the program.cs file is getting bigger and bigger. I don't want that to happen. And so I'm going to extract this into another thing, another file here. And let's create it under the services. So we have this services folder, and let's call it whatever we think that it's appropriate. I'm going to just call it authorize, maybe authorization policies, right? You could have other policies, and this is going to be a static class. And we're going to have add authorization policies, Maybe I'm going to call it add custom authorization, add custom policies. And here I'm going to pass in authorization options. Okay, and then I'm going to delete this whole thing. Now what I would do is I'm going to go over here, and remember this one is authorization options. So I'm going to just cut this whole thing and paste it over here. Now I can copy this authorization policies name here, the file, the class name, and then just call this add custom policies and pass in the options, and that's it, right? I simplify the code. Now, one of the last thing I want to do in this video is that, you see here, I need to be able to click on this in order to access the /user/1, this page, right? I don't want to just manually type in this. So I have to change the login status component, which is inside this components folder here, login status component, and username right now is being extracted from the claims principal here. I can code a lot of things in here in order to get the user ID here, right? Because we do need the user ID in order to go to the /user/user ID / manage RSVP events, go to that URL. For that, we need to get it from within the claims. And those can be extracted directly by using this authentication state. But I feel like I want to centralize this. And I think the best place is within this base component, right? I can centralize it right here. So for that purpose, let's first of all inject the authentication state here. So not the navigation manager, but the authentication state. So let's say authentication state provider, and we will declare a authentication state variable here. And also we'll have to determine whether the user is authenticated or not. And by default, it's going to be false. Now we want to override again on init async. Okay, it does that for me. And then it grabs the authentication state and it tells whether it initializes this variable by using authentication state, which is perfect. And now it even tries to get the username, user email for me. Perhaps I don't need it. What I would do is, first of all, I'm missing a curly brace. Now, secondly, I'm going to expose the is authenticated. So I'm going to say protected boolean is authenticated, and I'm just returning is authenticated variable here. And now get the username. It knows that. And if we have this, why is doing this? Just use is authenticated, right? And then you use this claims and you get it from the claims. Otherwise, you can return null. Let's actually make it return empty. Now, user email is generating this for me. Good. And it's following the same pattern. That's good. And I also want user ID. Give me user ID now. User ID. Okay. It gets my information. It knows to get it from this claim type. This is also correct. This is also correct. Okay. That's all I need. Now I can go back to my login status page, and then I'm going to say inherit from base page. So inherit component base. It's a base component. This is our own base component. Now here we don't need a username, we don't need is authenticated, and we don't even need the authentication state. Guys, let's delete all of them, and we don't need any of these. Yeah, let's delete this whole thing. And here this has to be is authenticated. So we can say this, or we can say base. Okay, that's good. And now we're looking at this username. First of all, fix this. So base.is authenticated, and username is base.username. Now we need to take the user right in here. Instead of span, let's change it to a anchor element. And then we need to take the user to /users /at base.userid /manage RSVP events. Okay, let's run it and see whether that works or not. All right, let's go over here. And you can see this becomes a hyperlink, and it does take me over to the upcoming events and past events page. That's very good. Now, if I click on this, it can take me to the events, right? Try this again. Click on this, it takes me here. It's just that it's missing this part. I want to be able to also click on this title. So let's go over and fix that very quickly. That's in here. and this is already okay. It is just this title. So we want to use a anchor element. We want to go to /event.ev.event ID, and we want to make sure that text decoration is, there's no decoration. And we're going to do the same thing in the pass event for the title. Okay, let's see whether this works or not. Oh, it makes this a blue, so I need to fix that. I don't want it to be blue, I just want it to be regular text. So perhaps we can just say, where is it? Here. We can just say text dark. And I'm gonna use this one also in the upcoming. Okay, this is okay. So let's go ahead and click on this, and we're coming to this event. Again, go to this. We're coming to this event, and I'm not planning to implement a user profile page, but if you do, then this can be a hyperlink, and the user click on this, takes this to the user profile. Of course, that has to be a public user profile page, which allows other users to see each other. Then this becomes a kind of like a social media thing. But I don't want to implement social media in this meetup. At least not too much social media functionality. But so far, we have implemented the correct functionality for managing RSVP events. These functionalities will be implemented later. Everything seems to be working properly. And I'm wondering whether we have a bug here. If I'm searching events, let's say Stickle, and then click on search, and it gives me this. And if I click on clear, then it gives me that. What if I go here and click on this? Okay, so this is good. So once I click on search, it takes me to the home page. That's the correct behavior. I believe we tackled that before. Let's try the whole thing again. I'm logging out, and then if I log in with the first user, and then I go to my page, I already have Meetup 6. Okay, let's go over here. Let's also attend this. Okay, so this one is user 3. User 1, right? And if I attend it, right, then seeing 2 Franklus, which is this is the first user, and now this is user 3, I believe. Yeah, this is user 3. But I have 2 events now, right? And these buttons don't work yet, but everything that we want to, oh, you see here, this page is not clearing this. It's not clearing this, which means that in our manage events, this has to inherit from, let's inherit from base component, and that should fix our problem. Okay, immediately you can see that bar is gone. Right, let's go back, go over here, and then if I go here, you can see the bar at the bottom is gone. Okay, we fixed that issue. Okay, that's everything I want to show you guys in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.